Nathia Squad, your report. Our ship has become wedged into Ida's Tower of Pleasure. By some incredible stroke of good fortune, we seem to have landed in a massive pile of pillows, which cushioned our fall. I think if we all work together, we can use our strength to lift the ship over our heads long enough to unwedge it and fly out of that.
Rest easy, Nathia Squad.
Welcome to Abandoned Save, where I highlight the good, not legendary games of the past. Does anyone remember Hyper Light Drifter? I'm sure a lot of people do. It raked in a massive total on Kickstarter in order to be made, and went on to sell hundreds of thousands of copies across all platforms, and even has an animated adaptation produced by Adi Shankar in the works. Probably. There hasn't been any word on that in a few years, so it's hard to say. Also hard to say if any fans want to see that anyway after what he did to Devil May Cry. But with all that success, how many people know about Heart Machine's second game, Solar Ash? With Steam sales not even reaching 100,000 according to Gamealytic, it's likely that a lot of people have no idea what it is. But why is that when their first game was so successful? And what even is Solar Ash to begin with? The developers of the game describe Solar Ash as a fusion of Jet Set Radio, Shadow of the Colossus, and Mario Galaxy. I see where they're coming from on that, but I personally think of it more as Shadow of the Colossus plus Journey. It's a platformer first and foremost, with occasional combat in between, where you'll mostly be skating and jumping around rather than tackling enemies, but there are plenty of those littered around to disrupt you as well. And yeah, that's right, I said skating. You play as Ray, a Void Runner, which is a person trained to go into black holes and bring stuff back out of the wreckage. She and her squad are on a mission to save their planet, which is nearly come into contact with a massive black hole called the Ultra Void by activating a device called the Star Seed, which is said to destroy black holes. And for some reason, the three things they decided to bring on this trip into a supermassive black hole were 1. A hard light sword, and 2. A suit complete with a cape for maximum aura, and finally, their Shadow the Hedgehog skates. You use the skates to gain crazy momentum and double jump around, defeating enemies and learning the secrets of the Star Seed and what happened to your squad, who Ray has lost all contact with. The first thing the game tells you is how to skate before ever telling you how to jump or fight. That's how you can already tell what this game is really about. You also go around collecting these red Kong toys without having any idea what they are or what they're for. Solar Ash is about exploration, and that means it's not going to stop the game for tutorials to tell you what's happening or what something is. It gives you just the basic controls and sends you on your way. That's exemplified here, where you have to climb up this tar, and all it does to tell you that is put some of those gelatinous dog toys going up it, and lets you figure out the rest. A massive serpent attacks after Ray scans and calls for help, finding nothing but something she calls a SID terminal, and that leaves a waypoint to give us some direction. Skating across these clouds towards it really reminds me of running across the sand dunes in Journey, and it's amazing how bouncy it feels, like you really were skating across clouds. I activate the terminal, and it turns out Sid is an AI companion of the Void Runners, and it doesn't appear to be working correctly. Sid gives us a map of the area, which is really just a location, and the location of some anomalies throughout the area that are disrupting her, so we set off to take care of them. There are a few enemies between us and them, but they're pretty simple and go down in only 2 hits. Climbing around searching for one of the anomalies, I eventually found this needle, and having no idea what it was for, I decided to react the way every gamer or junkie would when they find a random glowing needle sticking out of the ground. I hit it! And that starts a timer, and another needle spawns for you to chase after. Collecting enough of them reveals an eye, which Ray stabs with her surprisingly needle-like sword, and that causes an eye to appear on the flying serpent monster that showed up earlier. Stabbing the wall eyeballs angers the great serpent god. You'd think I really did hit that needle earlier. And if you don't manage to hit them all fast enough, it just resets and you can try again as many times as it takes. There's enough needles for everybody. Solar Ash does start out kinda hard though, as you only have 2 max health, even though you can see 5 pips max health on the bar, but we'll get to that later because we got a fucking grappling hook. Every game is better with a grappling hook, and you can even briefly slow down time to help aim it and extend your range, which is great considering you're on a clock every time you start one of these anomaly platforming challenges. Once we've cleared out all 3, it shows us the name of the boss and we're ready to take him on. This is going to be the main gameplay loop of Solar Ash and why I compare it to Shadow of the Colossus. Instead of figuring out how to get to the boss, you have to figure out how to find and take out all the anomalies, and then you're set against a giant enemy. Having super skates and a grappling hook makes you a bit faster than a horse and glowing sword, but the idea is kind of the same as you run around on the boss and hit the weak points up until the end when you can do one hit of damage to it, only to reset and repeat until all of its health is gone. It's easy for now, but these can get pretty complex with tight timing. However, if you're looking for intense combat like you would have gotten in Hyper Light Drifter, you're not getting that here. Landing the final blow puts Rey in the hand of this giant mysterious woman who says we're going around and around for some reason and calls herself an Echo. She's not very cooperative with Rey's questions, though she does tell us that the bosses are called remnants before crushing Rey in her hand. Please crush me next, giant glowy mommy. That also reduces Rey's max health by 1 and opens up the next area for exploration. Waking up in front of Sid, who is now online, means we can get some answers though, and she tells Rey that she can't connect to any other sectors, but removing the remnants should give us the ability to activate the Starseed and save the day. Sid also allows you to repair 1 pip of max health for an ever-increasing amount of red orbs, change your suit, though we have no other options, and answers some other questions. These are all optional, but it will give you a little more context about the world, like how the Void Runners were able to enter the Ultra Void thanks to Void energy, how the governments of their world were too busy arguing to fully evacuate their planet, despite having spacefaring technology, and the basis for this Void energy came from an artifact they found and do not understand. We all like to think an impending worldwide crisis would unite the world, but I have a feeling this is exactly how it would go down. Unless all we needed were a couple of oil drillers. So that's the basic premise of Solar Ash, what it is, and what playing the game is going to look like for around 7 hours or less of total game time. If that interests you enough to check it out for yourself and you don't want to be spoiled, use the chapters down below to skip over to why I think this game ultimately failed, and for everyone else, I'll continue on with the story. Okay, going into the second area, we get to grind on a rail, and then at the top learn that some race called the Varuki vanished a long time ago, and these buildings seem to be from them. There's also some new enemies here that take more than the 2 hits everything else is taken to kill, which makes it clear that while combat isn't the focus, it will continue to evolve as the game progresses. I wonder what that artifact over there is. It's a sundial. How could I be so stupid? Of course they still need those on alien planets inside black holes. This doesn't actually do anything, but I appreciate it being there and rewarding you for exploring. Up ahead, Rey lets us know that you can use the time slip and then grapple to close enough enemies, which hits them once and allows you to use it as a means of travel. You might think that would mean this would be used often, but I think since they decided to put the time slip on a decently long cooldown, this doesn't actually come up too often, as you can't really chain it. Ahead this time, I found one of the anomalies before actually finding Sid. You have to activate Sid in each area to get the map screen, which you can teleport between areas from, and to get the waypoints of the anomalies, but you're not actually forced to interact with it until you're done, so you could actually make the exploration harder on yourself if you wanted to and wake up Sid last. It might make some things a little more annoying, but I could see some players wanting to experience the game that way, though the waypoints are never shown to you unless you hold down the button to bring them up, so it is entirely in your control. Hey, what does that symbol mean? It leads off the main path a little bit, and it resulted in finding this Void Runner cache. One of Rey's companions, Irving, left it with an audio log, and it also gives a piece of his suit for finding it. Each area has their own suit collectibles, and they do unique things, like this one I got later in the game that allows you to heal every time you kill an enemy. You can also use them to piece together some information about what happened, so I'll bring them up again as needed. Immediately after that, I ran into this woman named Lyris. She's looking for some unnamed man and doesn't seem to be all there.
She's not all there.
This is one of the 3 side quests in the game, which the game keeps track of on the map screen along with all the caches you've collected in each area. These are interesting and add to the lore of the Ultra Void, but not really the main story, so all of you heartless bastards out there can ignore them if you don't care at all about their troubles. Upon finding Sid, we finally arrived in the main area of the second map, the Broken Capital. This is a destroyed Veruki city, complete with railroads that you can grind and skyscrapers to climb, and I was already blown away by the exploration in this area, but the other areas do not disappoint either. This one is a little difficult to navigate since it can be confusing how to get up to the top of some of these buildings where the anomalies are, but that's half the fun of the game. I was able to complete this game to 100% without any guides or looking anything up, and I'd argue you'll have way more fun if you let yourself get a little lost and just look around. The first thing I found here is Lyris waiting for who we can now tell is her husband at one of the locations she mentioned, but you don't really get more information at this point, so we'll have to find more locations first.
I'm going to the temple to check on the old priests. Take on Danderpaws.
I don't know why, but there's something so funny to me about this character that leaves journals around being called Tarragon Danderpaws. I get that Lyris is a cat person, so old Danderpaws probably is too, but I swear that's like if you named your kid Paprika Dandruff-Hands.
Lyris, is it? There's no one out there. Everyone's gone.
What did I tell you about leaving your post?
Alright, yeah, this woman is batshit. Cat shit? Anyway, her quest continues in Iron Root, which is actually a different map, so we'll see more of her later. This boss fight against the Forgotten Thresher is much tougher than the previous one, forcing you to go from one end to the other while it flips around, but that's exactly what makes it so cool. It did take me a few tries, but with it down, we end up face to face with Echo once again. She insists Ray's mission is impossible and seems to know a lot about what's actually going on here. Then she smashes one of our max health pips to pieces again, and the next area is opened. Sid mentions that Irving had previously brought her back online, which is weird since she wasn't online when we got here, but she doesn't remember anything else, nor can she contact the ship, because Chat CYD is one of the least helpful video game AIs I've ever seen. Area 3 is the Iron Root Basin, which is where Lyris mentioned she was going, so that quest will pick up here. The first thing I found though was a log left by Verse, who is the most relatable of the Void Runners, because he is sick of all this bullshit and of everything going wrong, and he just wants to be done.
We shouldn't even be here. Our people failed us, and now we're stuck in this tomb fighting for their lives. What's fair about that?
They've also introduced laser sniper enemies that are really annoying since all enemies respawn eventually. I legitimately think this entire area would be much better if just those enemies didn't respawn, but each one only takes about an hour or so to complete, so you're not going to be dealing with anything that you may not like for very long. I finally stumbled upon Lyris in this broken machine, and she suddenly remembered that her husband will be waiting for her in an altar that you have to open up for the story here, which means we'll see her again soon. In the meantime, here's Verse being based again.
Not a single nation could agree on a solution. They had so much time to fix this, and they did nothing. I want to save my planet, but death is too good an ending for everyone in charge there. If I don't make it, let it be known, this is their fault.
Once I finally made it into the sanctuary to talk to Lyris, you see how dark this game can be. These people ultimately had their worlds destroyed by a black hole, and being inside it affects their memory. Lyris couldn't remember that the husband she was looking for was already dead, buried beneath a tree. The whole time, she didn't even realize Ray was actually real, and she only wishes for death to join her husband. But fuck all those emotions, it's time to fight a giant monster. If you get motion sickness, this game may not be for you, as this thing picks you up and moves all over the place while you're chipping away at it. I think it's a little less interesting than the other monsters, but with him down, we get to talk to Echo again. She says she isn't the cause of Ray's issues, but the effect, which makes no sense whatsoever, and when Ray offers to help her, she calls Ray her torturer. It was around this point that I started to get an idea of where this mystery was going, but I didn't actually figure it out before the answers were revealed. Sid tells us that the Void Runner ship has been broadcasting a Mayday signal for a long time, and that there are no other signs of life on it, but she isn't sure what's going on. At this point, Ray has come to the conclusion that none of the other Void Runners are alive out there, but we still don't know exactly what happened. We go back through the broken capital to get into the next location of our journey, the Eternal Garden, where we meet the Mushroom Man Arik right at the entrance. He says his elders have all knowledge, so Ray wants to speak to them, which Arik seems really excited about, and he invites us to his house to talk about it. Then the game leaves you to figure out how these new doors work in order to get in, with absolutely no hints. I love this exploration for that. You just find something and interact with it, learn how things work, and then put that to use, all without ever being told a thing. I understand not every game can do that, but I still have to complain about every game these days popping a tutorial for everything. GTA 6 is going to have one for how to kill the strippers to get your money back at this point.
These look like bones from some weird biped alien. Only has 2 eyes. That's sad.
I found Arik's house right away, and he tells us that he has to complete a ritual to restart the cycle and join the Mycelium network. He's a native to the Ultra Void and clearly has no interest in actually dying to complete his task, but his side quest requires you to go talk to the elders for him. I also found a cache here, and Pyatt is...
The roots of this growth were set down long ago, but I taste its fruit now. Today.
Well, he may have eaten a few mushrooms he shouldn't have. I absolutely love this area, as it's all about finding the right color spores and then bringing them to the smokestack things to open up more pathways, including these organic railways that are really cool and kind of gross at the same time.
I think these creatures were worshipped. I walk among a graveyard of gods.
Things seem to be going well for Pyatt.
You call that going well? That's some incredible optimism. Finding the first elder confirms that Arik doesn't want to do his duty, and he lives up to his elder name by immediately hating the unknown that is Ray. This is also the area where I first understood the Mario Galaxy comparisons, because gravity works the same way it did in those games. I just don't think it's enough to make that a main comparison, like how so many games say they have RPG elements, and all it is a level up mechanic with skill points. The highlight of the area is definitely the underground section with the glowing crystals, which is a small part of the overall map, but it has the coolest vibe out of just about anywhere in this game. It's creepy and dark, but it makes you want to explore more and figure out what exactly is going on with these mushroom people. It's also where I found the last Pyatt cache and unlocked his suit that I showed off earlier. I love that completely on my own and naturally I was able to find all of the collectibles in this area. Some of them are hidden, but it's not in places tucked so far away that you'll feel like you never would have been able to find them on your own, unlike a lot of other games. The Withered Eye boss is one of the most inventive bosses in this game, and is also definitely ripped from Mario Galaxy in some capacity, but it's cool so I don't really care. It's also the first boss to really fight back at all, but that doesn't mean it's any more difficult than the others. In our now customary talk with Echo, she says she's seen so many of Ray and that she can't stop her, but continuing down the path will cause Ray to suffer like she does. Always ominous, never quite enough to really figure out what's going on. But the next map is available, so it's time to leave Mushroom Land. This new location, the Mirror Sea, introduces toxic water, machines, and verticality like we haven't seen anywhere else in this game. Our third and final side quest for Admiral Ames starts here as well, where he immediately requests Ray join him on his ship because I chose to participate in his military LARPing. He's way up high, but there's jump pads all over the place to get you up there, as well as Sonic Frontiers-esque floating grind rails that are supposed to be ship debris. Some people are probably going to hate this level for that, but then again, maybe it's just Sonic fans that are that pedantic. They certainly have their quirks. The first cache I found here was Gozam's final resting place, where he reveals that he attempted to find a ship to escape the Ultra Void, but he was apparently too late. And then I fell all the way to the bottom coming back from it. Thanks, Gozam! On Ames' ship, Ames, who looks like this, cuts you off immediately every time you try to talk, telling Ray that he's lost some scout teams that were sent out to find someone named the First Citizen that he thinks can help them, so he wants you to go find them. The grind out of a ship is one of the longest and coolest rails in the game, getting you over to the main landmass for this map, along with its weird organic rails that you can control, and a lot of toxic water. I found the first scout team there, and I guess there wasn't a lot of room for brains in their weird slug heads. That's fucking sick. He's using a whole rusted out ship as a sword. I love that enemy, but I think the area he's in struggles a little bit for me because the toxic stuff is really annoying to navigate. For some reason, once you touch it, the bar always maxes out over time, and if you touch it again while it's maxed out, you die. Which means no matter what, once you've touched it, you're going to have to sit there and wait to go anywhere else, and you're often forced to go through it since you can skate across it for short periods. It's just really annoying, and in a game where the rules are often very clear without you ever being explicitly told how things work, it's a rare miss. I haven't really mentioned it before now, but you can also use a boost on a short cooldown to get some speed. I didn't mention it because I kind of forgot about it up until this point in the game, where it went from completely unnecessary to required to have the speed needed to clear some of the anomalies. There's a whole section going up this cloud, which is really cool, and it's also the source of a lot of confusion for players, including myself. Both sides of it have a landmass with an anomaly on them, and what I think is the least clear connection in the game, because in order to get to one of them, you have to start on one side and fall through a hole which takes you down to the other. It makes sense with how the gravity works in the game, but there's nothing else like that anywhere else, and I can see why so many people got stuck on it. But once you solve it, you get to play some Tony Hawk for a bit. Unsurprisingly, you climb up the boss's ship sword to attack him, but I am an absolute sucker for stuff like this. I love this boss. The execution has gotten a bit harder, but once again, it's not the main focus of this game, so you shouldn't be expecting anything crazy. This time on our little lunch date with Echo, she talks about wanting to kill Ray. Kinky. She says activating the Star Seed will tear her apart, and that Ray is not the first to try. Sid says that the Star Seed was overloaded, and that activating it would be very dangerous. She wants to shut it down, but she theorizes that activating it could alter space-time, which could save Ray's planet, so she immediately orders Sid to do the calculations to test it out. And she broke her. Guess we're going Sidless. She can still repair your armor and change your suit, though. I stopped to find the one AIM squad I missed before moving on, which was the one from the intro that decided they could lift their own crashed ship and dropped it on themselves. That leads back to the pavilion in a spot I had discovered earlier where the first citizen was hiding, on a literal throne with all of his wealth. Ames killed him for his crimes, but yeah, this is exactly what I expect a rich aristocrat to do in this situation. Why try to help when you can just jerk off in your gold room, you know? That marks the end of Ames' story, so only Oryx remains. That brings us into the final map of the game, the Luminous Peak. This one brings the mushroom idea back, as well as introducing some lava that kills you instantly if you fall into it. It's the last test of your platforming skills, and has several sections split off by railways that you have to create with the mushrooms, making it a bit difficult to navigate at times, but once you find your way into one of those split off sections, it's more straightforward. I found the body of Tufty in a cache pretty quickly, and we learned that she's the one that programmed the override for the Star Seed, but she considers it a mistake, and says no one will be saved. But we're still here, Tufty, and we have to try. The final Mushroom Elder, the Collector, says that we bear the same burden as another, and that they brushed off the aid of the Elders in order to save their planet, but he doesn't know what happened to them. So this has happened before. I found another of Tufty's caches, and her message seems to say that Pyatt orchestrated the events that happened here, and that he has convinced Ray of his plans, but Tufty is too far to stop them. But obviously we saw none of that. I also found the final one, and her suit actually gives you the ability to find other caches with the scan, so if you're looking to 100% the game, make sure to find all the caches here and you'll have a much easier time. Let's go finish Oryx's questline now. He's ready to perform the ritual, but he just can't put himself through it. Ray talks to the final elder, and she tells them that if he is not ready, then it is not his time. She also tells Ray not to poison the garden any further than she already has, which has no context, and his story ends. At least his quest was at least a little hopeful compared to the others, but we still don't really get any answers like it kind of teased it would give us. With that, it's time to take on the dragon, which you launch yourself up at using these smokestacks. This one is truly challenging, giving you little time with a ton of spots to hit before you can actually do damage. Plus you're in the air, so you can fall off at any time with a bad jump. It took a couple tries, but it still isn't too bad, And with that, we talk to Echo one more time. She says it won't be long now, and asks Rey if the remnants seemed familiar to her, to which she says no. Echo wants Rey to let go, but she refuses, and the Starseed is now ready for activation. We're finally able to fix Sid thanks to that, but she's unable to activate the Starseed. There is a manual override at the top though, so Rey grinds off to save her planet in a really foreboding scene. On trying to activate it, the planet phases back and forth between safety and destruction in the background, and then Echo appears. She says Rey always sounds like her at the end, and stops you from activating the Starseed. Echo is the echo of Rey, trapped in a time loop eternally activating the Starseed, because it doesn't actually reverse time, it just repeats it. You're then faced with a choice. Activate the Starseed and believe in your original mission, or believe Echo and destroy it. These are the two possible endings of the game. If you choose to activate it, you get the bad ending, featuring Rey being horribly transfigured while Echo says that all will be left of her are remnants, and then you wake up at the start of the game once again. Seeing the Starseed will trigger the credits, and you can reload to choose the proper ending this time. When you destroy the Starseed, Rey still gets transfigured, but this time you wake up in control of Echo, the original Rey, and meeting up with Sid tells you that you're not complete. You walk out and are greeted with the Rey you just completed the game with as a remnant. All the remnant bosses throughout the game were Rey from previous cycles who activated the Starseed, unable to accept the truth. Instead of destroying her, Sid suggests trying to save her, and the final battle begins. You can't lose as you have no health bar anymore, you just try until you're able to succeed, while the remnant begs to die, unable to cope with the consequences of her past mistakes. After pulling all the debris out of her, Echo tells her to accept the truth, and her soul is reunited. Somehow, Rey continues to exist in the Ultra Void afterwards, and resolves to rebuild the lost civilizations with Sid. The story isn't groundbreaking by any means, and there are enough hints if you pay attention that you definitely could figure it out, though like I said, I didn't fully piece it together before it told me. I'll have more to say about that in a minute, but just to wrap up this section, I wanted to mention that the narrative lead on this game was Zoe Quinn. Yes, that Zoe Quinn. That was surprising to me, and you can feel how you want to about that information, but I wanted to make sure I brought it up. Alright, so with the story covered, I want to talk about the issues this game faced that I think caused it to struggle in sales compared to its predecessor. First off, it launched only on the PlayStation for consoles, and on PC only on the Epic Games Store, though it later came out on other platforms like Steam and even the Switch. As we know, a lot of people were getting a fat bag from Epic to do that a couple years ago, so maybe it was worth it, but it has gimped the sales of just about every game that's tried it. On top of that, the retail price for Solar Ash, which once again is only about a 6 to 7 hour game, is $40, even today, which seems a bit steep to me. It goes on sale relatively often, and even at the time of recording this video, it's on sale on PSN and Steam, but I wouldn't recommend anyone pay $40 for this game. There's definitely a space for smaller games like this. I really enjoyed the game, but the $13 I paid for it seems a lot more fair than $40. Another thing that didn't help was the game was delayed before it was released, which killed some of the hype, especially considering it was during the height of the pandemic. One more problem directly having to do with Solar Ash is that platforming exploration focus. I love what it did with that, but it's always going to have a smaller audience than a game that's focused on combat, like Heart Machine's previous game, Hyper Light Drifter. Speaking of Hyper Light Drifter, that was a 2D game that featured difficult battles, so Solar Ash is a big departure from the game that put them on the map. Heart Machine is actually named after the struggles that the creator and lead developer Alex Preston has with his own heart issues that caused some of the delays in development. Hyper Light Drifter's story is focused directly on what it's like for him dealing with that and is deeply personal, whereas Solar Ash wasn't solely written by him and is a sci-fi concept that has nothing to do with his own life. The previous game's story is also told in a very subtle way with no dialogue or voice acting, while Solar Ash is fully voiced and is very direct about telling you its plot. You'll lack some details if you don't get some of the caches hidden around, but you don't need to think on this yourself. It's very straightforward and easy to put together. I don't think that's a bad thing, but the market for those two ideas may not be exactly the same, and probably had an effect on the sales as well. Ultimately, Solar Ash is a really fun game, especially if you're looking something to scratch that itch that Journey or Shadow of the Colossus left, because there are very few games that come out similar to those experiences. It got in its own way a few times, especially with the asking price, but if you can find a good deal on it, it's worth picking up and navigating the Ultra Void for yourself. I don't have reliable sales numbers for consoles, and Heart Machine went on to make a prequel to Hyper Light Drifter called Hyper Light Breaker, so Solar Ash definitely didn't tank the company, but it's clear they decided to go back to what made them successful in the first place after trying something new. It was created because Preston and the team wanted to try their hands at something in 3D, and that's also one of the reasons for the relatively short length. Developers aren't the ones setting the price, that's on the publishers, and I feel like Annapurna did them a disservice with that big asking price. They may have felt that way too though, because Hyper Light Breaker was published by Arc Games instead, and it's only $30 right now. It's currently sitting with mixed reviews on Steam about 6 months after launch, so maybe they're still having some struggles, but I hope that Heart Machine can continue to try new things without being afraid based on the lower sales of Solar Ash, and I'd love to see what they come up with next. Thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, please consider liking the video or subscribing and checking out some of my other videos, as it really helps me grow, and I'm sure you'll find something else that interests you. I've been Abandoned Save, and I'll see you in the next one.